Organizational behavior. Strange title, don't you agree? But let's think about it for a second. September is my birthday month, and whenever September comes around, I make sure that I have had an annual physical. Now, there's a little procedure, a little diagnostic procedure that's conducted every time I have one of these. It's happened over the last 5 decades. It usually happens so quickly that I'm hardly aware that diagnostic practice has just taken place. It usually involves one of these little hammers, a tap to a knee and then a tap to the other. And as long as everything kicks out right, the doc moves on with the other diagnostics. However, should there be a sluggish response or no response at all, on that day, what seems to be a diagnostic process that we're hardly conscious of reveals that there may be a systemic problem that we need to become conscious of. And that question may raise more questions, which may raise more questions. You see, organizational behavior is like human behavior. For the most part, we don't give a lot of thought to how things are going inside of our organizations, our agencies, our charities, our congregations, until something begins to rub wrong. The reflexes seem to be off. Just like the plumbing or the wood beams inside of a home. We don't think about those things, but the day that the plumbing fails, if there's a big spill out of the bathroom and onto the floor and out into the hallway, all we can think about is the plumbing. The studs in the walls belong in the walls. We don't want to think about them. They function with a kind of invisible structure. But the day that we begin to hear munching, chewing noises and ceiling tiles begin to fall, we discover there's a termite infestation. And on that day, all we can think about are the studs in the walls and the integrity of the system. We're going to spend time together on the topic of organizational behavior, similarly in the way that a doctor would spend time on trying to understand the physical behavior, or a therapist may want to understand the emotional behavior. We think that organizations are big systems with lots of principles, theories, constructs, dashboards to be mastered. However, don't forget, every pilot who has ever flown is doing something that's fairly complicated. However, people do learn to fly by instruments. And the difference between flying a small jet and a large jet from a natural perspective is very little indeed. It's going to take some gravity, it's going to take some lift and some drag, a foil that can be manipulated so that there's an equal number of takeoffs and landings, as my pilot friends like to say, the definition of a safe flying career. We want to figure out how to do the takeoff and landings for organizational practice, for business practice, for moving forward those aims that are so important that we put structure, fulfillment systems behind them. I'll be introducing a concept from my own reflection called the PACE model, a diagnostic model that you can use to get some sense of what the priorities are around a place or where there may be gaps. We'll be talking more about that as we get in the classroom. For now, welcome.